Hey guys, tonight we are traveling back in time and up in altitude. Way out, we are heading to the dizzying heights of the Andes Mountains in the 15th century, into the heart of the vast and powerful Inca Empire. And you are not going to be an emperor or a high priest. Oh no, that is too easy. Tonight, you are going to be a runner. An elite, high-speed messenger, part of a system that was the ancient world equivalent of a fiber optic network, only powered by lungs, legs, and a whole lot of roasted maize. Frankly, given the thin air and the sheer cliffs, you would probably not survive the first day of training. But that is what makes this a sweet story. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And in the comments, let me know your city and what time it is for you. It is always a quiet joy to see where everyone is tuning in from across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background, huh? Then let us ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the air. It is thin, crisp, and so clean it feels like it is scouring your lungs with every breath. You are standing on a path, but to call it a path feels like a wild understatement. This is a road. It is paved with heavy, flat stones, fitted together with a precision that seems impossible. It clings to the side of a mountain that plunges into a green valley thousands of feet below. This is the QH of Pacnan, the Great Inca Road, the Royal Road, and it is your new workplace. You look one way, and the stone ribbon disappears around a jagged peak. You look the other, and it descends in a series of perfectly engineered switchbacks, a stone serpent slithering down the mountain flank. There are no wheels here, no carts, no horses, no beasts of burden larger than a llama, which, let us be honest, has the perpetually unimpressed expression of a creature that will not be rushed. Everything that moves through this massive empire, armies, goods, information, and you, moves by foot. This road system is the circulatory system of the Inca Empire, stretching for thousands upon thousands of kilometers, from modern-day Colombia down to Chile and Argentina. Historians and archaeologists are still trying to map its full sprawling extent, with some estimates putting the total network at over 40,000 kilometers. Think about that. That is enough road to circle the entire Earth, all built by hand without iron tools, in some of the most challenging terrain on the planet. The Romans get a lot of credit for their roads, and rightly so, but they never had to contend with the Andes. You take a tentative step. The stone is cool and solid beneath your simple sandals. To your side, a low stone wall offers a sliver of psychological comfort, a barrier against the sheer drop. You can see how the stones were cut to fit, a technique called perque, where smaller stones fill the gaps between larger ones, all locked together by gravity and friction alone. No mortar. It is a testament to an incredible understanding of geology and engineering. The road beneath you has been here for generations and will remain for centuries after you are gone. As you walk, you notice the details. A channel cut into the rock on the mountainside of the path, designed to drain away the torrential seasonal rains and prevent the road from washing away. Steps carved directly into the bedrock where the incline becomes too steep for a simple path. This is not just a trail that formed from people walking it. This is a fully planned, constructed, and maintained piece of infrastructure. It is the physical manifestation of power, connecting the capital, Cusco, to every corner of the sprawling empire known as Tawantinsuyu, the four parts together. Further on, you come to a chasm, a dizzying gap in the earth with a river roaring far below. Spanning it is not a stone bridge, but one woven from grass. It is a suspension bridge, a QES wachoka. Its thick cables made from thousands of strands of aichu grass, twisted together into ropes as thick as your body. It sways gently in the wind, a living, breathing part of the road. Crossing it is a lesson in trust. Trust in the local villagers who reweave it every single year in a sacred tradition. And trust that the mountain spirits, the Apus, are watching over you. This is a cold, hard piece of a logistical network, but it is also steeped in ritual and respect. It has to be. In this environment, you do not conquer nature. You learn to become a part of its rhythm. And your rhythm, you are about to discover, must be very, very fast. The empire depends on it. For now, though, just feel the wind on your face and the immense, silent scale of the mountains around you. This is the stage upon which your story will be run. This road, this magnificent and terrifying artery of stone and grass, does not exist for casual strolls. It is not a scenic trail for pondering the majesty of the mountains. It exists for one reason and one reason only, to serve the will of one man. Far from here, in the heart of the empire, in the sacred city of Cusco, sits the Sapa Inca. He is the son of the sun, a living god, the absolute ruler of millions. And despite his immense power, he is a man plagued by a unique and crushing anxiety, the tyranny of distance. Imagine yourself as him for a moment. You are at the center of the world, the navel, as Cusco was known. Your palace is made of walls so perfectly joined that you could not slip a knife blade between the stones. You walk on fine-woven textiles, you eat from plates of solid gold and silver, and you are carried everywhere on a golden litter, shielded from the common gaze. The very ground you walk on is considered holy. But your empire, this tall wanton Suyu, is a sprawling, writhing beast. To the west, a long, arid desert coastline. To the east, the impenetrable green maw of the Amazon rainforest. And all around you, the Andes, a formidable spine of jagged, sky-piercing peaks and deep, shadowed valleys. Within this territory live dozens of different peoples, speaking different languages, worshipping different local gods. Many of them were conquered by your father or grandfather. Their loyalty is conditional. A regional governor might be skimming taxes. A recently subjugated tribe might be sharpening their weapons, whispering of rebellion. A granary, vital for feeding a province during a drought, might have been struck by lightning. It was difficult for him to know. By the time a messenger on a llama traveling at a leisurely pace reaches you with news of an uprising, that uprising has become a full-blown war. By the time you hear of a famine, thousands are already dead. This is the great fear of the Sapa Inca, not of an enemy at the gates, but of the slow rot of ignorance. An empire this vast, this topographically challenging, cannot be ruled by sheer force alone. It must be ruled by information. Swift, accurate, and constant information. He needs to know what is happening in the farthest flung corners of his realm, and he needs to know it now. He needs his commands, his troop movements, his edicts to travel faster than rumor, faster than dissent. He needs a nervous system for his empire, and that is where you come in. You and the thousands of other young men like you are the individual nerve impulses in this grand biological network. You are the solution of the Sapa Inca to the problem of space and time. The system you are a part of is called the Chasqui system. It is a relay, a human-powered telegraph line. The need for speed of the Sapa Inca is so absolute that it has created one of the most remarkable logistical systems in the ancient world. The stories told about it are legendary. They say the Sapa Inca could eat a fish in Cusco that was caught in the ocean, over 200 kilometers away, less than a day before. Now historians still debate the literal truth of this. It was questionable if a relay of runners, even the finest, could really move a perishable item that fast, up and down mountains, across canyons, and have it arrive fresh. The logistics of preservation, the timing, it all seems borderline miraculous. But the fact that the legend exists at all tells you everything you need to know about the system's primary goal: speed. Unbelievable, unrelenting speed. This is why the road is so meticulously engineered. It is not just a path. It is a racetrack. The steps are carved to a specific height for the stride of a runner. The surface is kept clear of debris. The drainage channels prevent it from turning into a muddy slide. Every single element is optimized for your swift passage. And along this road at regular intervals are small relay stations, little huts called tamboas. This is the secret. You do not run the whole way. Nobody could. You run a short, furious sprint a few kilometers to the next station where another runner is waiting, already rested, already alert, ready to snatch the message from your hand and continue the race. The weight of this responsibility is immense. A forgotten message, a twisted ankle, a moment's hesitation, it could mean the difference between a minor local dispute and a provincial rebellion. The peace of mind of the Sapa Inca, the very cohesion of the empire, rests on the soles of your feet. You are not merely a messenger. You are a living thread in the fabric of the state. a guarantee that the god King Eyes and Ears can reach anywhere, and that his voice can be heard in return. As you stand on this mountain path, the wind whistling past your ears, you begin to understand. This is not just a job. It is a sacred duty, a physical expression of imperial power, and your life is about to be reshaped to serve it. Long before you ever set foot on the Great Royal Road, your story began in a small, high-altitude village. A cluster of stone and thatch huts nestled in a terraced valley, where the primary sounds were the wind, the bleating of llamas, and the rhythmic clinking of farming tools against the rocky soil. You were not born into a noble family. You were born into a family of commoners. Undisturbed, the big people who formed the backbone of the empire. Your world was one of hard work, governed by the seasons and the demands of the state. From the moment you could walk, your life was an audition, though you did not know it. Life in the Andes is a natural-born high-altitude training camp. You chased llamas across steep terraced fields, your small lungs learning to pull oxygen from the thin air. You helped your father cultivate potatoes in quinoa, your legs growing strong from the constant climbing. Everything was a climb, to the fields, to the river, to the next village. Your playground was a vertical one. The Inca state was meticulously organized. It was a society without currency, where taxes were paid in labor. This system, called the mita, meant that every able-bodied man owed the state a certain amount of work each year. Some would be sent to build roads or temples, others to serve in the army, and some, the chosen few, would be selected for specialized roles. And the state was always watching. One day, a local official, a curacao, came through your village. He was not just there to check on the harvest or collect the labor tax. He was also a talent scout. He watched the children play, but his gaze was different. He was not looking for the strongest boy, the one who could lift the heaviest stone. He was looking for the fastest. He watched you and the other boys race up at Hillside, a game you had played 1,000 times. But he saw something in your stride, in the way you moved with an easy, ground-eating gait, in the way you were barely winded when you reached the top, while your friends were gasping for breath. He saw potential, not just speed, but endurance and intelligence. He would pull you aside, ask you simple questions, not to test your knowledge, but to see if your eyes were bright and alert. Chasqui could not just be a fast runner. He had to be trustworthy, sharp, and capable of remembering a verbal message with perfect clarity if the occasion demanded it. The most important messages were encoded in the knotted strings called quipas, but often there would be a supplementary oral component, a nuance that the knots could not convey. Being chosen was a tremendous honor for your family. It elevated their status. Your family would be exempt from some of the more common labor taxes because your service as a Chasqui was considered one of the highest forms of mita. It meant a life of immense hardship and discipline for you, but it was a life with purpose and prestige. You were not being conscripted, you were being given a calling. Of course, there is a bit of a historical debate here. Some accounts suggest that the role of a Chasqui was hereditary, passed down from father to son in certain families that were known for their athletic prowess. Other accounts, like the story of your selection, suggest it was a meritocracy, with the most promising youths from across the empire being scouted and recruited. The truth is likely somewhere in the middle. Certain families or communities living in strategic locations along the road system probably did provide runners for generations, but the empire was also pragmatic. If a boy with extraordinary talent was found in a remote village, it is unlikely the state would just ignore him because of his parentage. The Sapa Inca needed the best, and you would find them wherever they were. And so you said goodbye to your family. It was not a sad parting, not really. There was pride in your father's eyes, and your mother tucked a small pouch of toasted maize into your hand for the journey. You were not going to war. You were going to become a part of something vast and essential. You were leaving your small village to join the official training school for messengers. Your childhood of running for fun was over. Now, you would learn to run for the empire. You would learn to be a Chasqui. The valley where you grew up would soon become a distant memory, replaced by the endless, winding ribbon of the Inca Road and the constant, burning need for speed. Your new home is less a school and more a forge. It is a dedicated training center located at a high altitude, designed to take the raw talent you possess and hammer it into the shape of an elite imperial messenger. The man in charge of your training is a veteran Chasqui, a man whose face is a mask of wrinkles etched by sun and wind, and whose legs are corded with muscles that seem to be made of stone. He never shouts. He does not need to. His quiet disappointment is more motivating than any bellowed command. The first lesson is breathing. You thought you knew how to breathe. You have been doing it your whole life, after all. You were wrong. He teaches you to breathe from your diaphragm, taking deep, rhythmic pulls of air that fill every corner of your lungs. He makes you run with a pebble in your mouth, forcing you to breathe through your nose, a technique that warms and humid, if I S the cold, dry mountain air before it hits your lungs, preventing that raw burning sensation. You learn to match your breath to your stride, creating a sustainable rhythm that you can maintain for kilometers. In the thin, Andean air, oxygen is a precious currency, and you are taught to be a miser with every molecule. Then comes the running itself. You run at dawn when the air is at its coldest and thinnest. You run at midday under the punishing glare of the high-altitude sun. You run at dusk as the shadows grow long and treacherous. You run on flat, even stretches of road to build speed. You run up thousands of stone steps, your quadriceps screaming in protest to build power. You run down treacherous slopes, learning to place your feet with the delicate precision of a dancer to avoid a catastrophic fall. You run barefoot on some to strengthen your ankles, and then in your simple as utes, the llama hide sandals you will wear on the road, to get used to their feel. Your body begins to change. Any ounce of unnecessary fat melts away, replaced by lean, efficient muscle. Your resting heart rate slows to a crawl. Your lung capacity, already impressive from your high-altitude childhood, becomes truly phenomenal. You are becoming what some modern physiologists call a specialized Andean phenotype. Your body is adapting in ways that are still being studied today. For instance, it is a well-known fact that high-altitude natives, like the Quechua people you descend from, often have a higher concentration of hemoglobin in their blood, allowing them to carry more oxygen. Scientists still debate the specific genetic advantages and adaptations, but the result is undeniable. Your body is being turned into a perfect high-altitude running machine. The training is not just physical. It is also a grueling test of mental fortitude. You are taught to endure, to push past the point of exhaustion, to ignore the stitch in your side, to embrace the pain in your legs as a familiar companion. You are given memory tests, required to perfectly recite long, complex messages after only hearing them once. You are taught to be hyper-observant. Your trainer might ask you, after a long run, about the number of switchbacks in the last section, the condition of the bridge over the third stream, or if you noticed the landslide on the western slope. You have to be more than a runner. You have to be a scout, a living sensor for the state. One of the more peculiar and frankly unpleasant parts of the training involves your feet. They are your most important asset, and they are treated as such. You are made to soak them in toughening herbal solutions, the exact recipes of which are closely guarded secrets. Some accounts from the Spanish chroniclers, who were both horrified and fascinated by the Chasquis, mention that some runners would even have the soles of their feet beaten to make them tougher. This sounds brutal, and it is hard to verify. It could easily be an exaggeration. But the core idea is plausible. Your feet had to be conditioned to withstand the constant pounding on hard stone surfaces. You learn to read the road with them, feeling the slightest shift in texture, the loose stone, the patch of dampness, through the thin leather of your sandals. Your feet become as sensitive and as crucial as your eyes. Day after day, week after week, you are broken down and rebuilt. The playful boy who chased llamas is gone. In his place is a young man of discipline and purpose, his body a finely tuned instrument, his mind sharp and focused. You are no longer just a boy from a mountain village. You are becoming a lung of the Andes, a living part of the Empire breath, ready to join the endless race. With your body honed into a weapon of speed and endurance, your training now shifts to the most critical piece of equipment you will ever carry. It is not a weapon, not a tool, not even a map. It is a bundle of strings. You are led into a quiet, stone-walled room where an old man sits, surrounded by colorful dangling cords. He is a Quipuc, a keeper of the Quipos. and he is about to introduce you to the Inca Empire's solution to the absence of a written language. He holds one up for you to see. It is called a quipu. A main, thick cord forms the spine, and from it hang dozens, sometimes hundreds, of smaller, thinner strings. These pendant strings are a riot of color: white, red, yellow, blue, black, green, and they are covered in knots. Tiny single knots, long figure-8 knots, complex knots made of multiple loops. It looks like a decorative fringe, or perhaps some kind of elaborate fishing net, but you are told that the subject contains more information than above. It is a spreadsheet, a ledger, a census, a calendar, and a historical record, all rolled into one. The Quipu begins to explain, his fingers moving deftly over the strings like a musician playing an instrument. The color of the string matters. White, he tells you, might represent silver or peace. Yellow could mean gold. Red might signify war or a specific army. But these are not universal symbols. The meaning of the colors could change depending on the overall context of the Quipu. It is a system that scholars today are still desperately trying to crack. For a long time, it was believed quipus were purely for numerical data. But a growing number of researchers argue they contain narrative and historical information as well, a true form of three-dimensional writing. The debate over whether quipus are just mnemonic devices or a genuine writing system is one of the great unsolved mysteries of Andean archaeology. The old man shows you the knots. Their position on the string is crucial. The knots at the very top of a pendant string might represent thousands, further down hundreds, then tens, and at the very bottom, single units. The Inca used a base and decimal system, just like we do today. A long knot with returns, for example, placed in the tens position, would represent the number 40. A simple single knot in the hundreds position would mean 100. It was a brilliantly simple and effective way to record precise numerical data. He lets you feel one. The texture of the cotton or llama wool, the tightness of the knots, the slight variations in thickness. It all feels strange and complex in your hands. He explains that a quipu could record the number of llamas in a provincial herd, the amount of maize stored in a state granary, or the number of able-bodied men in a village. A sequence of quipus, delivered by runners like you, could give the Sapa Inca a real-time, data-driven overview of his entire empire. It was big data before the age of computers. But it is more complicated than just numbers. Subsidiary strings can hang from the pendant strings, adding new layers of data. A knot tied in a Z-twist versus an S-twist might mean something different. It is a system of staggering complexity, and you are not expected to be able to read it. That is the job of the Quipu. Your job is far more critical in its own way. You must protect it with your life. This is the classified document you will carry. It is light, easy to run with, and utterly indescribable to the untrained eye. If you were captured by enemies, they would just see a bundle of knotted cords. They would not know if it contained the location of a secret gold storehouse or a simple tally of potato sacks. The security of the system was built into its very design. You are told how to wrap the quipu carefully to shield it from the rain and sweat. You learn to carry it in a way that prevents the knots from tangling or coming undone. The Quipu stresses this over and over. A single misplaced or damaged knot could change a message from "we need 100 soldiers" to "we need 1,000 soldiers," a mistake that could have catastrophic consequences. As you leave the chamber, you have a new and profound respect for these strange, beautiful objects. They are not just strings. They are the memory of the empire, the language of the state. Your powerful legs will carry the body of the message, but these silent, knotted cords will carry its soul. Your physical training is almost complete, but this lesson has trained your mind to understand the true weight of the responsibility you are about to shoulder. Your training is complete. The day has come for you to receive your official issue, the standard kit of a Chasqui. It is a moment of great solemnity. You stand before your veteran instructor, your body lean and hard, your mind sharp. He does not hand you a sword or a shield. Your role is not to fight, but to evade, to outrun any threat. Your equipment reflects this singular purpose. There are only 3 key items, a trifecta of purpose-built gear that defines your profession. First, he hands you a pututillo. It is a conch shell, polished smooth from years of use, with a mouthpiece carved into the end. It feels cool and heavy in your hands, a piece of the distant ocean brought high into the mountains. This is your siren, your signal. You are taught to purse your lips and blow, not a gentle note, but a piercing, powerful blast that echoes through the valleys. The sound is haunting and unique. It will travel much farther than a human shout. This is how you will announce your approach to the next relay station, the Tambo. The runner waiting there will hear your call long before he can see you, giving him time to get ready, to stretch his muscles, to stand on the edge of the road, poised for the handoff. The pututillo is the sound of the system at work, a sonic link in the chain. Next comes the QIPI, a small bag woven from colorful textiles, similar to the ones your mother might use to carry coca leaves or dried potatoes. It will be strapped securely to your back. This is your cargo hold. Inside, you will place the precious quipu wrapped carefully in a protective cloth, that the quipu might not be your only cargo. A small pouch of medicinal herbs for a regional governor, a special feather from a rare jungle bird for a ceremony in Cusco, a piece of expertly crafted pottery. Small, lightweight, high-value items might also share the space. Your instructor warns you never to look inside your QIP, unless specifically instructed. Curiosity is a dangerous luxury. Your job is transport, not inspection. The contents are the business of the Sepe Inca alone. Finally, and most importantly, an official hands you your first quipu. It is not a complex one, a simple message for a nearby town, but holding it feels different now. This is not a training tool. This is real. The knots feel heavy with meaning, the colored strings vibrant with purpose. This is the reason for all your training. For every punishing run and every breathless moment, you secure it in your QIPI, tying the bag drawstrings tighten, making sure it sits comfortably on your back, not bouncing or shifting in a way that would throw off your stride. These 3 items put you to you. QIPI and quipu are the core of your identity as a Chasqui. But there are other, unissued items you carry. You wear the standard unku, a simple sleeveless tunic of the common people, though yours is of a finer weave. On your feet are the tufa shoots, the llama hide sandals, their leather soles now as familiar to you as your own skin. Tucked into a small pouch at your belt is a small supply of essentials, a handful of roasted maize kernels, quincha and some dried llama meat, charqui, lightweight, high-energy fuel for emergencies. You will also carry a small wad of coca leaves. The coca leaf is a controversial topic today, but for you in the 15th century Andes, it is simply a part of life. It is a mild stimulant and a sacred plant. Chewing a small quid of leaves with a bit of ash from a burnt plant, called LA-PTA, releases the alkaloids that will help you. It will not make you high, but it will dull the pangs of hunger, ward off fatigue, and, most importantly, mitigate the effects of altitude sickness. It is a tool, a form of ancient medicine that allows ordinary people to perform extraordinary feats in this harsh environment. The Spanish would later be baffled by the ability of the runners to go for so long with so little food, not understanding the subtle power of the coca leaf. This sacred plant is as much a part of your toolkit as the conch shell on your back. With your gear assembled, you are ready. You are no longer a trainee. You are a link in the great chain. You look at the road stretching out before you, the same road that once seemed so intimidating. Now it looks like a promise. It is your arena, your purpose, your entire world. You take a deep breath, the cold mountain air filling your powerful lungs. You are a Chasqui, and it is time to run. You do not start your first run from a standstill. The system is a river, and you step into it mid-flow. You are positioned at a small, purpose-built hut on the side of the road, a tambo waiting. This is your life now, periods of intense, alert waiting, punctuated by bursts of explosive, all-out effort. You stretch your legs, you jog in place, you nibble on a kernel of toasted maize. You are a coiled spring, and you are waiting for the signal. Then you hear it, faint at first, a lonely, mournful sound carried on the wind. It is the pututillo. the call of the incoming runner. The sound gets closer, clearer, echoing off the rock faces of the canyon. It is a sound that triggers an immediate physiological response in you. Your heart rate quickens. Adrenaline begins to trickle into your bloodstream. You move to the very edge of the road, your eyes scanning the path, searching for the first glimpse of the runner who is currently carrying the Empire on his back. You see him, a small figure in the distance, moving with a steady, rhythmic pace that eats up the ground. He is not jogging. He is running with an intensity that you now understand intimately. As he gets closer, you can see the strain on his face, the sheen of sweat on his skin despite the cool air. He sees you and his pace seems to quicken, a final surge of energy now that his goal is in sight. He does not slow down to a comfortable stop. The transfer is a fluid, dynamic event, designed to waste not a single second. As he approaches, he is already untying his QIPI, pulling out the precious quipio. You in turn are poised, your body angled, ready to start running in the opposite direction. This is the moment of transfer. It is a little dance of efficiency. He reaches you, and without breaking stride, he shouts a short, breathless phrase, a verbal addendum to the knotted message. It might be something simple like urgent for the governor, or the northern road is flooded, a critical piece of context. Some historians theorize that this whole message was the primary information, and the quipyu was just a mnemonic backup. Others argue the quipyu was the core data, and the verbal message was just a subject line. The exact relationship between the two is a fascinating puzzle, reflecting the complexity of a non-literate information system. He thrusts the quipyu into your waiting hand. Your fingers close around it, the wool warm and slightly damp from his grasp. In that same motion, you are already turning, your legs pumping. Before he has even fully stopped to catch his breath, you are 10-20 paces down the road, accelerating to your top speed. You do not look back. There is no time for pleasantries, for camaraderie. The baton has been passed. The race is now yours. You settle into your rhythm, the one that has been drilled into you for months. Deep breaths through your nose, a steady, powerful stride. Your sandals slap against the stone path, the only sound besides your own breathing and the pounding of your heart. The weight of the QIPI on your back is familiar. A part of you. The landscape blurs by. You are not seeing the view. You are scanning the path ahead. A lusto, a patch of ice in a shadowed crevice, a place where water runoff has made the stones slick. Your mind is a flurry of calculations, constantly adjusting your footfalls, your balance, your pace. The distance to your own designated tambo is not far, usually only a few kilometers. The entire Chasqui system was built on this principle of short, brutal sprints rather than long, endurance-draining marathons. It was about maintaining the highest possible average speed. A tired runner slows down. A fresh runner is always fast. By swapping runners every few kilometers, the message itself could maintain a consistently high velocity, day and night, without ever stopping. As you near the end of your leg, you reach for your own pochutillo. You place it to your lips, and with the last bit of air in your lungs before taking a deep breath, you blow. The sound explodes from the shell, a clear, powerful signal that you are coming. You are announcing your arrival, calling the next link in the chain to readiness. You are no longer the one waiting. You are the one being waited for. You are the approaching sound, the incoming data, the living pulse of the Empire. And you run, your legs burning, your lungs screaming, with the singular focus of a predator closing in on its prey. Your prey is the next tambo. The handoff behind you is already a fading memory. The face of the runner who passed you the quipyu is gone, replaced by the intense focus of your own task. You are a solitary creature now, a singular point of motion in a vast static landscape of rock and sky. The world shrinks down to the path in front of you, the rhythm of your breathing, and the precious cargo on your back. This is your first official run. Every sensation is heightened. The burn in your muscles feels sharper, the thinness of the air more profound. The responsibility you carry is no longer a theoretical concept from your training. It is a physical weight, a tangible reality. You glance down at the quip you clutched in your hand. The colored string, the intricate knots, they seem to vibrate with an energy of their own. This is not a practice run. This matters. A mistake now has real consequences. You push the thought from your mind. Your training takes over. You focus on your form, just as your instructor taught you. Shoulders relaxed, arms swinging in rhythm with your legs, feet landing lightly on the balls, not the heels. You are a study in efficiency. Every motion has a purpose, to propel you forward with the least amount of wasted energy. The terrain changes. The relatively flat section of road gives way to a steep incline, a series of stone steps climbing up the side of the mountain like a giant staircase. You shorten your stride, your breathing deepens, your leg muscles screaming in protest. Each step is a victory. You pass a small shrine by the side of the road, a pile of stones called an apachito. It is a place to honor the apus, the mountain spirits. In a less urgent time, you might have stopped, placed a small stone of your own on the pile, and whispered a prayer for a safe journey. But you cannot. You do not have time. You offer a silent prayer in your mind, hoping the spirits understand that your speed is its own form of reverence, a duty to a different kind of god, the Sapa Inca. You reach the summit of the climb, your lungs heaving, and immediately begin the descent. This is, in many ways, more dangerous than the climb. Gravity is a treacherous ally. It is easy to lose control, to let your speed run away from you. A single misstep, a twisted ankle on the uneven stone steps, would mean disaster, not just for you, but for the message. You lean back slightly, using your leg muscles as brakes, your eyes darting, planning your footfalls 3-4 steps ahead. It is a controlled fall, a high-speed dance with gravity. You remember the stories about the speed of the Chasqui. The Spanish chroniclers who witnessed the system in its final days were astonished. Another, Father Bernab Cobo, calculated that in a single day and night, a message could travel over 240 kilometers, about 150 miles, through the mountains. This figure is still a subject of intense academic discussion. Was it an exaggeration? Was it a rare, best-case scenario? Or was the system truly that efficient? As you race down the mountain, every fiber of your being strained to the limit. That speed feels terrifyingly plausible. You are pushing the absolute limits of human capability. You hear a sound, and for a terrifying second, you think it is another runner put you to you, a signal that you have somehow gone the wrong way. But it is not. It is the cry of a hawk circling high above in the thermal updrafts. For a brief moment, you feel a kinship with the bird. You are both moving through this immense landscape, seeing it from a perspective others cannot. The hawk is hunting, and in a way, so are you. Your prey is the next relay station. Then you reach for your own conch shell. You know the distance now. You can feel it in your legs. It is time. You put the pachutier to your lips and blow. The sound rips through the air, your signal, your announcement. The next runner, a man you have never met, is now alert, waiting. The thought of him, poised and ready, gives you a final burst of strength. You are not just running for yourself or for the Sapa Inca. You are running for him, for the next link in the chain. You push harder, accelerating into the final stretch. The quip you held out ready. The first race of your new life is almost over. You see it in the distance. Not a village, not even a hamlet, just a small solitary stone structure tucked into a curve of the road. It is a tambo. This is your destination, your finish line. The sight of it is a balm to your screaming muscles and burning lungs. As you get closer, you see the next runner, just as you were an hour ago, alert, poised, waiting at the edge of the path. The transfer is a mirror image of the one you experienced before. You do not slow down. You shout the verbal message you were given, urgent for the governor, your voice raspy and strained. You thrust the quip you into his outstretched hand. His fingers close over it, and in a single, fluid motion, he is gone, already sprinting down the path, continuing the message, relentless journey towards Cusco. Only then do you allow yourself to stop. The sudden stillness is jarring. The adrenaline that has been coursing through your veins begins to recede, leaving behind a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. You bend over, hands on your knees, gasping the thin air. The world, which had been a blur of motion, slowly comes back into focus. The silence rushes in, broken only by the wind and the frantic thumping of your own heart. An older man emerges from the tembo. He is a Tamp UCMAOC, the keeper of the station. He does not say a word, just places a steadying hand on your shoulder and guides you towards the small hut. The tambo is Spartan, but it is a sanctuary. The walls are thick stone, offering a welcome respite from the incessant wind. Inside, it is cool and dim. There is a raised platform for sleeping, covered with thick, woven blankets, and a small hearth in the corner where a low fire smolders. The keeper hands you a ceramic cup of water. It is the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. He gestures for you to sit, and you practically collapse onto a low stone bench. This is the other half of your life as a Chasqui recovery. The system is only as strong as its individual runners, and the tamboes are crucial for ensuring each runner is rested and ready for their next turn. These small relay stations, sometimes called Chasquiwas, were positioned every few kilometers along the main roads. But the Inca Road network was served by a much larger and more complex system of lodging. There were bigger tamboes, more like inns, positioned roughly a day walk apart. These larger establishments were designed to house traveling state officials, army units, and even the Sapa Inca himself and his massive entourage. They were fully stocked with food, water, and supplies maintained by the local communities as part of their labor tax. Archaeologists have uncovered the ruins of hundreds of these tamboes, from simple shelters like the one you are in now to massive complexes with multiple buildings and large storage facilities. The logistics of keeping this vast network of roadside inns consistently supplied is a marvel in itself. The keeper gives you a small bowl of hot quinoa soup. It is simple, savory, and incredibly restorative. As you eat, another man enters the hut. He is the runner who will take the next message going in the opposite direction, away from the capital. He nods at you, a silent acknowledgement of your shared profession, before starting his own pre-run stretching. Herein lies a little-known detail of the system. The runners were typically locals. You would not be sent to a random part of the empire. You would serve on a section of the road that you knew intimately, a stretch that ran through or near your home region. You knew its dangers, its weather patterns, its spirits. This localized model had two major advantages. First, it meant you were already acclimated to the specific altitude and terrain of your post. A runner from the high plains would struggle in the coastal desert, and vice versa. Second, it fostered a sense of local responsibility and pride. You were not just running for some abstract empire. You were protecting your own community, your own family. As the warmth of the soup spreads through your body, your breathing returns to normal. The deep ache in your legs begins to subside into a dull throb. You will rest here for a few hours. You will sleep, eat, and rehydrate. And then you will be the one waiting by the side of the road, alert and ready, listening for the faint, haunting call of a put-you-to-you on the wind, signaling the arrival of the next message that you must carry on its journey. For now, in the quiet sanctuary of the tambo, you are safe. You are at rest, but you are always on duty. In the quiet demons of the tambo, as your body recovers from the brutal sprint, the station keeper places another bowl in front of you. It is not a thin soup this time. It is a thick, hearty stew of potatoes and chuno. Potatoes that have been naturally freeze-dried through a process of exposing them to the freezing mountain nights and the hot daytime sun. This process removes the water, making them incredibly light and allowing them to be stored for years. It is a foundational piece of Andean food security, a bulwark against famine. The stew is also filled with chunks of charqui, the dried llama meat, and specks of green from whatever herbs the keeper has managed to gather nearby. You eat slowly, deliberately. This is not just a meal, it is fuel. It is the carefully selected recipe for high-speed performance in one of the world's most demanding environments. The life of a Chasqui is a constant metabolic balancing act, and your diet is as specialized as your training. You are a high-performance engine, and this is your high-octane fuel. The core of your diet is what modern nutritionists would call a complex carbohydrate powerhouse. The staples are potatoes, maize, corn, and quinoa. These are not just random choices, they are the superfoods of the Andes. Potatoes, of which there are thousands of varieties in the mountains, provide sustained energy. Maize, often toasted into a crunchy, portable snack called cancha, offers a quick burst of fuel. And quinoa, that tiny grain you know as the mother grain, is a complete protein, perfect for muscle repair. It is a diet tailor-made for endurance athletes. You will not find yourself eating heavy, fatty foods. There is very little meat, save for the occasional bit of llama or guinea pig, CUY, which was a common delicacy. Large, heavy meals would just slow you down, making you feel sluggish and heavy. Instead, you eat small, frequent, energy-dense meals. The focus is always on efficiency, both on the road and at the table. One of the more curious aspects of the Chasqui diet, something the Spanish chroniclers noted with fascination, was its relative blandness. While Inca cuisine could be rich and varied, especially for the nobility, the food provided at the tamboas for runners was purely functional. It was used not just for flavor, but also because it was believed to aid in circulation and keep the body warm, a welcome effect in the frigid mountain air. Historians and bioarchaeologists have studied the remains of individuals buried near Inca roads, and their findings often support this dietary profile. Isotope analysis of bones and teeth can reveal what a person ate throughout their life. Unsurprisingly, the remains of those believed to be Chasquis or others involved in the road system show a diet heavy in maize and potatoes. But here is where a debate arises. Some studies have shown that these individuals also had access to a more varied diet than the average farmer, sometimes including resources from far-off regions. This suggests that being a Chasqui, a servant of the state, might have come with certain nutritional perks. You were valuable state property, and the empire invested in keeping you well-fed and in peak condition. As you finish your stew, the keeper hands you a small, tightly wrapped corn husk. You open it to find a sticky, sweet paste made from the fruit of the chanayar tree, a rare treat. It is a little burst of sugar, a final top-up for your depleted glycogen in stores. This diet is a reflection of the Inca genius for resource management. They did not have access to modern nutritional science, but through generations of observation and tradition, they developed a system of sustenance that could power a human body to achieve the seemingly impossible. They understood the relationship between food, energy, and environment in a way that was deeply intuitive and incredibly effective. You lean back against the cool stone wall, feeling the strength returning to your limbs. The food is working its magic, replenishing what the run took from you. You will not get fat on this diet. You will remain lean, a weary frame of muscle and sinew. But you will be strong. You will be fast. And when the time comes, you will be ready to run again. The empire has fed you, and soon, you will repay that debt on the road. While you rest and refuel, the quipu you carried so desperately has continued its journey. It has been passed from runner to runner, a blur of colored strings and flying feet, closing the distance to the heart of the empire, Cusco. Finally, after a journey that may have taken less than a day or several, depending on the distance, the last Chasqui in the chain sprints into the city. But he does not deliver it to the palace of the Sapa Inca. He delivers it to a nondescript stone building, the headquarters of the Quipu CMAOCS. Inside, the atmosphere is one of quiet, intense concentration. It is a room filled with these keepers of the knots, men who have dedicated their lives to the art of the quipu. They are the empire accountants, its statisticians, its librarians, and its historians. The runner hands the quipu to one of these masters, who takes it with a practiced, reverent hand. Now the magic of translation begins. You, the runner, provided the speed. This man provides the meaning. He does not just look at the quipu, he interacts with it. He holds the main cord, letting the pendant strings hang freely. His fingers, calloused and sensitive, drift over the knots. He feels their shape, their size, their position. It is a tactile process. He might close his eyes, relying on touch alone to decipher the information encoded in the fibers. He would read the numbers first. Starting from the top of a string, he would identify the knots representing thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones. He could, in a matter of moments, tell you that the quipu reports a harvest of 3,572 potatoes from a certain village, or that a regiment of 1,200 soldiers has moved to a new position. The decimal system makes this remarkably fast and intuitive for a trained reader. But the numbers are only one layer of the data. He would then look at the colors. Perhaps this quipu uses a standardized color code for the region it came from. The white string might represent the potato harvest, a brown string the number of llamas, and a yellow string the amount of maize. He is not just reading numbers, he is reading a spreadsheet. This is where it gets truly fascinating, and where modern scholarship is still largely in the dark. The question is how they recorded non-numerical information. A prevailing theory is that the quipus worked in a binary system, encoded through things like the pi direction of the string, as twist versus see twist, or the way a knot was tied. With a series of binary choices, you could theoretically encode syllables, words, or concepts. It would be a system not unlike the binary code that powers our computers today, just rendered in wool and cotton instead of ones and zeros. It is a tantalizing idea, but without a Rosetta Stone for the quipu, a text written in a known language alongside its quipu equivalent, it remains an unproven, though compelling hypothesis. Historians and cryptographers are still trying to apply statistical analysis and pattern recognition to the surviving quipus to find these narrative secrets. The quip you see a POC might confer with another. The red string indicates a troop movement, one might say, but the knot is tied in the reverse direction. This usually signifies a retreat, not an advance. They would debate the nuances, comparing the quipu to others from the same region, their collective knowledge forming a powerful analytical engine. Once the information is fully deciphered, it is transcribed, not onto paper, but onto another quipu. The master would create a summary quipu, consolidating the data with information from other recent messages. This new quipu might then be taken to a higher-level official or even presented in the court of the Sapa Inca himself. The ruler would not need to know the intricacies of reading the knots. He had his specialists for that. He would simply be told, "Lord, the southern province reports a surplus of 5,000 bushels of corn," or the garrison on the eastern frontier requests 300 more soldiers. The system was elegant and robust. The Chasqui were the secure, high-speed delivery mechanism. The quipu itself was the encrypted data packet, and the quipu CAMAOC was the processor, the decryption expert who turned raw data into actionable intelligence. As you lie in the tambo hundreds of kilometers away, you have no idea what your message contained. You do not need to. You did your part. You ran your race. And now, in a quiet room in Cusco, the silent strings you carried are speaking, telling their story to the only men in the empire who know how to listen. Your time of rest comes to an end. You hear the telltale blast of a puchu-tiyu echoing from the direction of Cusco. A message is coming your way, heading out from the heart of the empire to its distant provinces. You are ready. You take your position on the road, and soon a runner appears, his face set with the same focused intensity you wore on your own journey. The handoff is swift, professional. You grasp the new quipu, get the brief verbal instruction, perhaps for the governor of VIL Cass, and you are off, running back the way you came. This time, as you settle into your pace, you are more aware of the QIPI on your back. It feels slightly heavier, more lumpy than it did on your first run. The quipu itself is almost weightless, so you know there is something else in there. The warning of your instructor echoes in your mind, never look inside. But you cannot help but wonder. The Chasqui system was the Empire Information Network, its telegraph, but it was also its express postal service, a sort of pre-Columbian FedEx for small, high-value goods. The Sapa Inca in Cusco might desire a rare medicinal plant that only grows on the eastern slopes of the Andes. A regional governor might need a specific ceremonial item for an upcoming festival. The Chasquis were the fastest and most reliable way to transport these items, so it might be in your bag. It could be something of immense value, like a small carving of spawned wireless shell. The spiny oyster shell, with its vibrant red and orange color, was considered more precious than gold by the Incas. It came from the warm waters off the coast of modern-day Ecuador, and it was sacred, associated with water, fertility, and the gods. Transporting a piece of it was a task of the highest trust, or perhaps it is something more practical. A pouch of high-potency poison for the tips of a frontier garrison arrows. A new, more accurate map of a rebellious territory, drawn on a piece of cloth, a sample of ore from a newly discovered mineral deposit. The possibilities are endless. The needs of the empire were complex, and your role was to facilitate them, no questions asked. This brings up an interesting and less discussed aspect of the Chasqui system, its role in the movement of luxury goods for the elite. While you and your fellow commoners lived a life of functional simplicity, the Inca nobility enjoyed a wide range of luxury sorts from every corner of the Tawan and Suyu. And the Chasquis were often ones who moved them. Colorful macaw feathers from the Amazon jungle for a nobleman headdress, perfectly formed seashells from the Pacific coast, potent hallucinogenic powders used by priests in their rituals. Some scholars argue that this secondary function was just as important as the transmission of information. It was a physical demonstration of the power of the Sepa Inca. His reach was so absolute that he could summon the rarest and most beautiful things from the farthest ends of his empire, and they would arrive with breathtaking speed. When a noble in a remote provincial capital received a gift of fresh jungle feathers delivered by a Chasqui, the message was clear. The Sepa Inca sees all, and his hand can reach anywhere. It was a tool of political control and social cohesion, binding the provincial elites to the central power in Cusco through a system of favors and prestigious gifts. You continue your run. The lumpy weight in your QIPI a constant reminder of the unseen cargo you carry. Does it matter what it is? To you, no. Your job is defined by motion, not by content. You are the vessel. The integrity of the vessel is your only concern. Whether you are carrying a declaration of war encoded in knots or a handful of exotic berries for the governor dessert, your speed must be the same. Your dedication must be absolute. You leap over a small stream, your sandals splashing in the icy water. The jolt reminds you of the object in your bag. A strange, almost comical thought enters your head. What if it is a freshly caught frog? There are historical accounts, though likely exaggerated, of the Sepa Inca receiving live animals on delicate foods from afar. It is a fringe idea, but it highlights the sheer confidence the empire had in its logistical network. The idea that you might be a high-speed amphibian delivery service is absurd, but in the context of the Inca ambition, anything is not truly impossible. You dismiss the thought and focus on the path ahead. The governor of VIL Cas is waiting for his message, and whatever else is in your bag, and he will not be kept waiting long. Weeks turn into months. The rhythm of the run-rest-run cycle becomes the rhythm of your life. You know every stone and every turn of your designated route. You can predict the weather, from the feel, the wind, and the color of the sky. You are no longer a novice, you are a seasoned part of the machine. One day, at the main tambo in your region, a high-ranking official arrives from Cusco. He gathers all the Chasquis from the surrounding area. There is a special task, he announces. A sacred task. The Sepa Inca desires fish from the sea for his feast. This is the legendary fresh fish run, the story you heard whispered during your training, the ultimate demonstration of the prowess of the Chasqui system. You feel a surge of excitement and dread. This is the big one. The coast is over 300 kilometers away from Cusco as the crow flies, and much farther along the winding roads. It is a journey that would take a normal traveler weeks. The goal is to get a fish from the ocean to the Emperor Plate in the high Andes in a little over a day, ensuring it arrives fresh enough to eat. On the surface, it seems impossible. There is no ice, no refrigeration, just speed. You and your fellow runners are organized into a dedicated, high-priority relay chain. The route is cleared. Other, less urgent messages are held back. For the next 24 hours, this single path has one purpose. The official explains that the fish will be caught at dawn. It will be gutted, wrapped in damp seaweed to keep it cool and moist, and placed in a special lightweight woven container. This container is the baton for this epic race. You are positioned along the route. Your leg of the journey is not on the high-altitude plains you are used to. You have been moved further down the mountain into the warmer, more humid valleys that transition towards the coast. The air is thicker here, which should make breathing easier, but the heat is a new enemy. You wait, the tension palpable. Then, you hear the Puchutiu call, but it is different this time. It is a frantic, urgent series of short blasts. The signal, the fish is coming. The runner who appears is drenched in sweat, his face a mask of grim determination. He does not even have the breath for a verbal message. He just thrusts the woven container into your hands and collapses onto the grass. You take it and you're wrong. The container is light, but you can feel a slight, damp coolness through the weaving. You are acutely aware of the precious, perishable nature of your cargo. This is not an abstract message on equip you. This is a piece of food, and it has a deadline. A very, very firm deadline. Every second you waste, every moment of hesitation, the fish is decaying, its freshness seeping away into the mountain air. This is the ultimate supply chain challenge. It requires perfect coordination, unwavering discipline, and peak human performance from dozens of runners, one after another without a single weak link. The historical accuracy of this specific feat is, as always, a topic of great debate among historians. Skeptics point out the immense logistical challenges. A single delay, a runner who trips, a flooded stream, a tired handoff, would doom the entire enterprise. The fish would arrive spoiled, and the consequences for the failed runners would likely be severe. Some suggest the fish might have actually been dried or salted, or perhaps it was a hardy type of seaweed or shellfish that could survive the journey better. And yet, the story persists. It was recorded by multiple Spanish chroniclers who seem to have heard it from the Inca themselves. It was clearly a point of pride for the empire. Whether it was a literal, daily occurrence or a special, perhaps ceremonial, demonstration of capability, the legend itself served a purpose. It was the ultimate boast. It told the world that the power of the Sepa Inca was so great, he could bend time and space to his will, commanding the ocean to deliver its bounty to his mountain kingdom on demand. You push yourself harder than you ever have before. The heat is oppressive. Sweat stings your eyes. Your legs feel heavy. But you think of the fish. You think of the Sepa Inca. You think of the runner who is waiting for you, and the runner after him, and the one after that, all part of this incredible, fragile chain of speed. You blast your putu, your signal cutting through the thick, warm air. You see the next station, the next fresh runner. You summon your last reserves of energy and sprint towards him, the damp, woven container held out in front of you like a sacred offering. You have not failed. The fish is still flying towards the sun. You are running in the dark. Not the gentle moonlit dark of a clear highland night, but the profound, inky blackness that comes before the dawn. The race for the fish, or any other urgent message, does not stop when the sun goes down. The Chasqui network is a 24-hour operation. Now, your senses must adapt to a whole new set of challenges. Your eyes, accustomed to the bright, harsh sunlight of the Andes, struggle to pierce the gloom. The stone path, so familiar in the daytime, becomes a treacherous ribbon of uncertainty. A small crack becomes a potential ankle breaker. A gentle curve becomes a blind corner. You have no torch, no lantern. An open flame would be cumbersome, and it would ruin your night vision. You must learn to see with your other senses. You see with your feet. Through the thin soles of your suits, you feel the texture of the road. You can distinguish the solid, well-laid stones from a patch of gravel or loose scree. You feel the subtle shift in incline before your eyes can even register it. Your feet have become your primary navigational tool. You see with your ears. The sound of a stream ahead tells you a bridge is near. The way your footsteps echo tells you if you are running alongside a sheer rock wall or in a more open space. The whisper of the wind through a particular gap in the mountains is as good as a landmark. The world becomes a symphony of subtle acoustic cues, and you are its conductor. But your most reliable guides are written in the sky and on the land itself. You have been taught to read the stars, the Southern Cross, the Celestial Llama, the river of the Milky Way. These are your celestial maps. On a clear night, you can keep your bearing by tracking their slow procession across the sky. You know which peaks on the horizon should align with which constellations at a certain hour. It is a precise and ancient science, passed down through generations. When the sky is cloudy, you rely on the land. The Inca engineers who built the Qhapaqnan were masters of their environment. They often built the road to follow the natural contours of the land. You know that a certain stretch of your route always follows the western side of a deep canyon. You can feel the constant, gentle downslope of the terrain. Even in total darkness, you can feel the shape of the world around you. You navigate by a kind of terrain memory, an intuitive sense of place that has been burned into your mind through endless repetition. It is a common misconception that ancient peoples were lost without modern tools like compasses and GPS. In reality, they possessed a navigational toolkit that was far more sophisticated and integrated with the natural world. This is a point that historians and anthropologists constantly emphasize. The ability to navigate by stars, sun, and landscape was not a specialized skill, it was fundamental knowledge. However, the level of precision required by a Chasqui running at speed in the dark was exceptional. There is, of course, a debate about the true extent of nighttime running. Some historians suggest that running in complete darkness in the treacherous Andes would be nigh on suicidal, and that the 24-hour nature of the system might have been an exaggeration. They argue that runners may have waited for the moon to rise, or perhaps only certain, less dangerous sections of the road were run at night. It is a reasonable point. The risks were immense. A fall could mean not just a failed message, but a lonely death in a ravine. But tonight, you are not debating the possibility. You are doing it. You are a ghost on the road, a fleeting shadow moving through the sleeping mountains. You feel a primal fear, a deep-seated human instinct to seek shelter and fire when darkness falls. But you suppress it. Your duty outweighs your fear. You feel a presence more than you see it, a large rock formation that marks the final kilometer of your leg. It is your final landmark. You know you are close. You raise the putu to your lips, its cool shell a comfort in the dark. You blow the signal, the sound swallowed by the vast emptiness of the night. Ahead, a tiny pinprick of light appears. The keeper of the next tambo has heard your call and has lit a small shielded torch to guide you in. It is a tiny beacon in the immense darkness, a signal that your solitary, terrifying journey is almost over. You focus on that light, a promise of rest and safety, and you pour every last ounce of your energy into reaching it. Your career as a Chasqui is not confined to one type of landscape. The Tawantinsuyu, the Inca Empire, was not just mountains. It was a vertically stacked empire of incredible diversity, and the Great Road system, the Nan, traversed all of it. To be an effective part of this network, you must be adaptable. Your body, so perfectly tuned for the high, thin, cold air of the Andes, must now learn to function in entirely different worlds. 1 month, you might find yourself transferred to a route along the coast. You descend from the highlands, and with every step down, the world changes. The air grows thick and heavy, saturated with the salty humidity of the Pacific Ocean. The crisp, cool mountain wind is replaced by a sweltering, oppressive heat. The landscape transforms from jagged peaks and green valleys into a vast, shimmering desert of sand and rock. Running here is a different kind of challenge. Dehydration is your new enemy. The sun is not just bright, it is a physical weight, beating down on you, leaching the water from your body. You learn to run in the cooler hours of the early morning and late afternoon, seeking shelter during the punishing midday heat. The tamboes you are stocked not with thick blankets, but with large ceramic jars of water. Your diet changes too, with more fish and seaweed resources of the coast. The road itself is different. Instead of being paved with perfectly fitted stones, it is often just a wide track marked by low adobe walls or simple stone cairns, a line drawn across the endless sand. Getting lost here is a death sentence. Then, just as you acclimate to the desert's harsh beauty, you might be reassigned again. This time to the east, to the edge of the Great Rainforest, the Antisuyu, one of the 4 quarters of the empire. Here the world is a riot of green. The air is even thicker, dripping with moisture. It rains constantly, a warm, persistent downpour that turns the world into a slick, muddy maze. The road here is a constant battle against nature. The relentless growth of the jungle seeks to swallow it whole. Maintenance crews are always at work, cutting back vines, clearing fallen trees. The stone paving is often covered in a treacherous layer of moss and algae, making every footstep a potential slip. Your enemies here are not dehydration and sunstroke, but mudslides, flash floods, and a whole host of new creatures. You see monkeys chattering in the canopy, brightly colored frogs, and insects you never knew existed. Running here requires a different kind of agility. You learn to leap over tangled roots, to navigate muddy slicks, to cross churning brown rivers on swaying vine bridges that seem far more precarious than the sturdy grass bridges of the highlands. The sounds are different too, not the silence of the desert or the whistling wind of the peaks, but a constant, deafening chorus of insects, birds, and unseen animals. It is a living, breathing, sometimes threatening environment. This ability to operate across vastly different ecosystems is one of the most remarkable, and often overlooked, aspects of the Inca state. The empire was not just a mountain kingdom, it was a master of what modern geographers call vertical archipelago. The Incas controlled and exploited a whole series of ecological niches, from the sea-level coast up through the mountain valleys, to the high-altitude grasslands, and down into the upper jungle. The Chasqui system was the thread that stitched this diverse tapestry together. Of course, the idea that a single runner would be routinely reassigned across these wildly different zones is a matter of some historical debate. It is more likely that Chasquis specialized in the environment they were from. A boy from a coastal village would run the desert routes. A boy from a highland family would run in the mountains. This makes practical sense. Acclimatization takes time, and the system could not afford to have runners operating at less than peak efficiency. However, for special high-priority missions or for the transportation of specific goods, like those jungle feathers, it is conceivable that specialized runners would have to venture outside their home territory. Your body protests the constant changes. Your lungs, so efficient in the thin air, feel labored in the soupy humidity of the jungle. Your skin, used to the dry cold, breaks out in rashes in the heat. But you adapt. You have to. You learn the new rules of each environment. You are not just a runner. You are a chameleon, changing your technique, your pace, and your mindset to match the world around you. You are a testament to the reach of the empire, a single human being who can traverse 3 completely different worlds, all in service of the Sapa Inca. You are back in the highlands, the familiar, biting wind, a welcome friend after the suffocating humidity of the jungle edge. You are on a particularly grueling stretch of your route, a relentless, high-altitude climb that seems to go on forever. The air is painfully thin. Each breath is a conscious effort. A dull headache begins to throb at your temples, and a wave of nausea washes over you. This is so roach, altitude sickness. Even for you, a man born and raised in the mountains, there are days when the altitude just hits harder, when your body feels the strain. You slow your pace, reaching into the small pouch at your belt. You pull out a few dried, greenish-brown leaves. They are coca leaves. You select 3 perfect ones, a sacred number, and lay them flat on top of each other. Then you add a tiny sliver of a hard, grayish substance from a small gourd. This is LLIPTA or TCRA, a catalyst made from the ash of the quinoa plant or other alkaline sources. The catalyst is key. Without it, the active alkaloids in the coca leaves are not as effectively released. You place the small bundle in your cheek, between your teeth and your gums. You do not chew it vigorously. You gently bite and suck on it, allowing your saliva to mix with the leaves and the ash, creating a small quid. Slowly, a tingling numbness spreads through your cheek and tongue. The taste is earthy, slightly bitter, and deeply familiar. Within minutes, you feel the effects. It is not a dramatic rush or a jolt of energy. It is a subtle, gentle lift. The pounding in your head begins to recede. The nausea subsides. Your breathing seems to become a little easier, a little deeper. The feeling of oppressive fatigue is blunted, pushed back, allowing your natural stamina to take over once more. You are not high. You are not intoxicated. You are simply functional again. The coca has allowed you to overcome the mountain assault on your body. The use of coca in the Andes is an ancient tradition, stretching back thousands of years before the Inca Empire. For the people of the mountains, it was, and still is, a sacred plant, a gift from the gods. It was used in religious ceremonies as a social lubricant, and most importantly, as a medicine and a tool for work. It allowed people to perform hard physical labor at extreme altitudes where an unacclimated person would be quickly incapacitated. The Spanish, when they arrived, were deeply conflicted about coca. On the one hand, their Catholic priests saw it as a pagan ritual, an obstacle to converting the native population. They tried to ban it. On the other hand, the Spanish mine owners quickly realized that their indigenous laborers could not work the long, brutal hours in the silver mines without it. Greed won out over piety. They not only allowed the use of coca, but they began to pay the miners partly in coca leaves, creating a cycle of dependency. This colonial perspective has colored the world view of coca for centuries, forever linking it in the popular imagination with the illicit drug derived from it. But for you in your time, it has no such stigma. It is a tool to love survival and a sacred part of your culture. It is a bit like a modern athlete drinking a carefully formulated sports drink. It is a supplement that allows you to perform at your best. There is a historical debate, however, about who was allowed to use coca in the Inca Empire. Some chroniclers wrote that coca use was a privilege strictly controlled by the state, reserved only for the nobility, the priesthood, and for those performing state service, like yourself. In this view, coca was a status symbol, another luxury that the Sapa Inca could grant or withhold. Other evidence suggests that its use was far more widespread among common people, especially in the regions where it was grown. The truth is likely complex. While commoners might have used it, the highest quality leaves were almost certainly reserved for the state and the elite. As a Chasqui, you would have been given a regular, high-quality supply as part of your official provisions. It was an investment in your performance. Your headache is gone now. The world has sharpened back into focus. You adjust the quid in your cheek and pick up your pace. Your legs feeling lighter, your lungs more capable. The mountain is still a formidable adversary, but you now have an ancient ally on your side. The sacred leaf has given you the strength to continue your race against time. You are running through a small village, not unlike the one where you grew up. The road, the Qapac Nan, serves as the town main street. As you appear a blur of motion and purpose, the daily life of the village seems to pause for a fraction of a second. A woman weaving a blanket looks up from her loom. Two men repairing a stone wall stop their work, hammers in hand. Children playing with a dog fall silent and stare. They are not just looking at a runner. They're looking at you, a Chasqui, and in their eyes you see a mixture of awe, respect, and perhaps a little bit of fear. You're a living embodiment of the power of the Sapa Inca. Your presence is a tangible reminder that even in this remote village, far from the splendors of Cusco, the eye of the state is always watching. Your social status is a strange paradox. By birth, you are a commoner, a hat-on-runner, just like them. You are not nobility. You do not own land. You have no hereditary title. Yet, your role elevates you. You are a servant of the state, but a highly specialized and vital one. When you are on the road carrying a quipu, you are more than just a man. You are an imperial edict made flesh. To interfere with you, to delay you in any way, would be a crime against the Sapa Inca himself, and the punishment would be swift and severe. This protected status is a practical necessity. The messages you carry are too important to be delayed by local disputes or petty officials. Everyone, from the lowest peasant to the highest regional governor, knows that a Chasqui is the ultimate right-of-way. Armies on the march would part to let you through. A nobleman knitter would pull to the side of the road. You are the priority. As you run, you are given what you need. If you require water, a villager will rush to bring you a cup from their own supply. If one of your sandals breaks, the local sandal maker will be expected to repair it or provide a new one immediately as part of his community labor tax. This support is not optional. It is their duty to the empire to keep you running. In return for this life of grueling service, you and your family receive certain benefits. As mentioned, your family is exempt from the more common forms of the metal labor tax. They are likely provided with food from state storehouses. Your status brings them honor and a degree of security. This was a key part of the Inca system of control, making service to the state a desirable and advantageous path. It ensured a steady supply of willing, unmotivated recruits for its most demanding jobs. But there is a subtle social isolation that comes with the role. You are respected, but you are not one of them anymore. You are always in motion, a transient figure who appears and disappears in a flash. You sleep in state-run tamboes, not in the homes of villagers. You eat food provided by the state. You belong to the road, not to any one community. You see the children watching you, and you wonder if they see a hero or just a strange, lonely man who is always running. The exact social standing of a Chasqui is, like many things, a subject of some historical nuance, whether seen as heroes, or simply as human tools of the state, to be respected for their function but not necessarily admired as individuals. The Spanish chroniclers, who often viewed the Inca through a European lens of class and nobility, struggled to categorize them. They were not slaves, but they were not free. They were not nobles, but they held a status above the ordinary peasant. The Inca concept of society was less about individual freedom and more about collective duty and one role within the larger state organism. You were a vital cell in the imperial body, and you were treated with the care and respect that such a vital cell deserves. You leave the village behind, the stares of the people fading from your awareness as you focus once more on the road. Their respect is not what fuels you. Their awe does not make your legs move faster. You are fueled by your training, your duty, and the simple, all-consuming need to reach the next tambo. The social implications of your work are for others to contemplate. For you, there is only the run. The sky, which had been a brilliant, cloudless blue, has turned a sullen, bruised gray. The wind, usually a steady companion, now howls in unpredictable gusts, tearing at your tunic and trying to throw you off balance. You are high in the mountains in a notoriously unstable region. A storm is brewing, and you are running directly into its path. Rain begins to fall. Not a gentle drizzle, but a cold, hard, driving rain that instantly soaks you to the bone and turns the stone path into a slick, treacherous surface. Your sandals, usually so reliable, now offer little grip. Every step is a risk. The wind screams in your ears, a deafening roar that drowns out the sound of your own breathing. You cannot hear, you can barely see. This is no longer a race, it is a battle for survival. Suddenly you hear a deep, guttural rumble that seems to come from the very core of the mountain. It is a sound you know and fear. A landslide. You look up the slope above you and see a horrifying sight. A section of the mountainside, loosened by the torrential rain, is giving way. Rocks, mud, and debris begin to cascade down towards the road. You do not hesitate. Your training, your instincts all scream one word: run. You sprint, abandoning all caution, your feet slipping and sliding on the wet stone. The rumble behind you grows into a deafening roar. You feel the ground shake beneath you. You do not look back. You pour every ounce of strength you have into a desperate, forward-lurching scramble. A rock whistles past your head. The air fills with the smell of wet earth and shattered stone. You clear the immediate dangers, on just as tons of rock and mud obliterate the section of road you were on moments ago. The path is gone, completely buried. You collapse onto the ground, heart hammering against your ribs, gasping for air and adrenaline. You survive, but the message is not. The road ahead is blocked. The road behind is destroyed. The chain is broken. This was the Achilles he loved, the magnificent Chasqui system. For all its speed and efficiency, it was utterly dependent on the physical integrity of the road network. In the Andes, a landscape that is constantly in motion, shaped by earthquakes, volcanoes, and extreme weather, the roads were vulnerable. A single landslide, a flooded river washing out a bridge, a heavy snowfall blocking a high pass. Any of these could sever a vital communication line in an instant. When a message failed to arrive at its expected time, it would have sent ripples of anxiety through the system. The keeper of the waiting tambo would know something was wrong. After a certain amount of time, he would likely dispatch a scout to investigate. But this took time. Hours, perhaps even a day, could be lost. For an empire that thrived on real-time information, this was a critical failure. A governor waiting for instructions, a general waiting for troop reinforcements, the Sapa Inca himself waiting for news from a troubled province. They would all be left in the dark, a state of uncertainty that the entire system was designed to prevent. Historians and archaeologists studying the Nan have found extensive evidence of the constant repair and maintenance required to keep it open. They have found sections of road that were clearly rerouted after a landslide, and bridges that show signs of being rebuilt multiple times. The Inca state would have had dedicated teams of laborers, part of the Mita system, whose sole job was to patrol and repair the roads. The question still debated is how quickly they could respond to a major disruption. Could a massive landslide be cleared in a day? A week? The resilience of the empire depended on the answer. You get to your feet, your body shaking. You look at the impassable wall of debris in front of you. You cannot go forward. You look back at the destroyed path. You cannot go back. You are stranded. The quipu is still clutched in your hand, its message now trapped in this bubble of silence. You have failed through no fault of your own. The perfect, elegant system has been broken by the raw, chaotic power of the mountain. Your only choice is to wait. To wait for the storm to pass. To wait for a repair crew or a scout to find you. For the first time in your career as a Chasqui, you are completely still. And the silence, the lack of motion, is more terrifying than any storm. The nervous system of the Empire has just suffered a stroke, and you are at the epicenter of the damage. Hours pass, the storm abates, leaving behind a world washed clean and eerily silent. The sun emerges, steam rising from the damp earth. You are cold, tired, and still stranded between the two breaks in the road. It is in this forced stillness, this unwelcome silence, that you finally have time to think. Not about the next step or the burn in your muscles, but about what your frantic running truly means. You begin to see the bigger picture. You are not just a delivery boy, a cog in a machine. You are a neuron. You are a single, vital pulse in the vast nervous system of the Empire. When you run, the Empire thinks. When you stop, a part of its brain goes dark. Think of the quipu in your hand. What could it contain? If it is a message from a provincial governor, it might hold tax records, the numbers of llamas, the bushels of maize, the lengths of woven cloth collected from the local villages. This data, when combined with reports from hundreds of other governors, allows the central administration in Cusco to have a precise, up-to-the-minute understanding of its wealth. It allows them to plan for the future, to redistribute resources from areas of surplus to areas of need, to manage the complex imperial economy without a single coin ever changing hands. Your run is, in effect, an act of accounting. Or perhaps the quipu holds military intelligence. The report from a scout on the eastern frontier, detailing the movements of a hostile tribe from the jungle, the location of an enemy force, their numbers, their morale. This information allows the generals of the Sepa Inca to move their armies like pieces on a giant chessboard, to anticipate attacks, to quell rebellions before they can gain momentum. The speed of your run translates directly into military advantage. The fate of a battle, the lives of thousands of soldiers, could depend on the minutes you shave off your time. Your run is a strategic maneuver. Maybe the message is of a civil nature. A report on the progress of a new terrace construction project. A request for an engineer to help design an irrigation canal. Or, tragically, a tally of the dead after an outbreak of disease in a village. This allows the state to manage its massive infrastructure projects, to respond to natural disasters, to keep the intricate machinery of daily life running smoothly across thousands of square kilometers. Your run is an act of governance. This is the true genius of the Chasqui system. It was not just about communication, it was about control. The Sepa Inca sat in Cusco, the navel of the world, and from there he could feel the pulse of his entire empire. He could feel it through the knotted strings that you and hundreds of others carried to him day and night. The system bound the four diverse quarters of the Tawantinsuyu, the arid coast, the high mountains, the dense jungle, the southern plateau, into a single, coherent entity. Without you, without the road, the empire would simply be a collection of disconnected regions, ripe for fracture and civil war. Historians often compare the Inca Empire to the Roman Empire, and for good reason. Both were incredible engineers, both built vast road networks, and both managed sprawling, multi-ethnic territories. But the Romans had alphabetical writing. A Roman governor could write a detailed letter, full of nuance and argument. The Inca governor had to rely on the numbers and symbols of the quipu, supplemented by a short verbal message. This has led to a long-standing academic debate about which system was more advanced. Some argue the lack of written language was a fatal flaw for the Inca, limiting the complexity of the messages they could send. Others argue the opposite. They contend that the quipu system, with its focus on hard, quantifiable data, was actually more efficient for managing an empire. The Inca did not need to read a governor long-winded excuses, he just needed the numbers. The Quipu provided a standardized, data-driven overview that was, in some ways, brutally effective. You look at the landslide again. The break in the road is not just a logistical problem. It is a neurological one. A part of the empire is numb, cut off from the brain, and you, the nerve impulse, are trapped. This moment of crisis has given you a profound and terrifying clarity. Your simple physical act of running is the thread that holds the entire world together. And right now that thread is broken. As you wait by the landslide, another thought, a more chilling one, begins to creep into your mind. The physical dangers of the road, the cliffs, the storms, the landslides are obvious. But what about the human dangers? The messages you carry are the lifeblood of the empire. They are immensely valuable. And valuable things attract predators. Your instructors had warned you about this in hushed tones after the main training was over. Not all threats carried a spear or a club. Some threats would greet you with a friendly smile. Imagine this scenario. You are running on a remote section of the road. Another Chasqui approaches running towards you. This is unusual. Runners are supposed to stay in their designated zones at their assigned tamboes. He flags you down, looking panicked. The bridge ahead is out, he says breathlessly. The main tambo has been moved. I have orders to take your Quipu and carry it on an alternate route. What do you do? He looks like a Chasqui. He is wearing the tunic. He has a QIPI. He seems to know the protocols. But a seed of doubt sprouts in your mind. Is he real? Or is he a spy? An agent of a rebellious governor or a rival faction, trying to intercept vital intelligence. This is the peril of a system built on trust. The entire network operates on the assumption that each link in the chain is secure. But how do you verify someone's identity in a world without ID cards or formal credentials? You would have to rely on your intuition, on subtle cues. Does he know the secret verbal password for the week? Is he wearing the correct regional variation of the Anku tunic? A single wrong judgment could lead to disaster. Giving your Quipu to an enemy agent would be a far greater failure than being stopped by a landslide. Espionage in the Inca Empire is a fascinating and shadowy topic. The state itself was a master of intelligence gathering. It had its own spies. The Tuc Uirikui, or he who sees all, who traveled the empire in disguise, observing the conduct of local officials and reporting directly back to the Sapa Inca. But it stands to reason that enemies of the state would use the same tactics. What would they want with your Quipu? If it contained troop movements, they could ambush an Inca army. If it contained tax records, they could identify which regions were wealthy and ripe for raiding. If it detailed the location of a royal food storehouse, the QLQA, they could attack it, destabilizing an entire province. The information you carried was power. And so, you were taught a form of paranoid awareness. You learned to be wary of anyone on the road. You learned to stick to the exact protocols, to never deviate. You are told that if you are attacked, your first duty is not to fight back. Your duty is to the message. You must run. If you cannot run, you must destroy the Quipu. Tearing it, throwing it off a cliff, anything to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. The message is more important than your own life. There is a specific, strange account from some of the Spanish chronicles that touches on this. It is a bit of a historical oddity and its truthfulness is debated, but it is an interesting story. The account claims that some Chasquis were trained to swallow small vital parts of a Quipu if they were about to be captured. The idea seems almost fantastical. How would it be recovered? But it speaks to the extreme lengths the Empire might have gone to protect its data. Whether it is true or not, it underscores the immense pressure you are under to maintain information security. A sound snaps you out of your dark thoughts. It is the sound of voices and the clinking of tools. A repair crew has arrived. They have been dispatched from a nearby tambo to assess the damage. They are a welcome sight, a sign that the system is already working to heal itself. They give you food and water and tell you to wait. It will take time, but they will clear a narrow path. You watch them work, their coordinated effort a small miracle of organization. Your anxiety begins to subside, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. The danger of spies and thieves is real, but so is the resilience of the Empire. The broken road will be mended, and soon you will be able to run again. The temporary path is cleared and you are escorted to a larger, more significant tambao. This is not just a simple relay hut. It is a major way station, a hub where several branches of the QHAPAC-NAN converge. It is a place of convergence for runners from different regions, a node where information from across the Empire briefly crosses paths before continuing on its way. Here, you can rest for a full day while the main road is properly repaired. In the communal resting area, the atmosphere is one of quiet professionalism. Runners, lean and weary, stretch tired muscles, rehydrate, or sleep. But there is also a low hum of conversation. News, real news, does not just travel in the quipas, it travels in the hushed voices of the men who carry them. You notice a runner who has just arrived from the far north, from the coastal regions, near the border of the Empire. He looks different from the others. It is not just the physical exhaustion of a long series of runs. There is a strange, haunted look in his eyes, a deep unease that seems to go beyond simple fatigue. He speaks in a low voice to a small, captivated audience of other Chasquis. You drift closer, curious. He tells a story that sounds like a fever dream. He speaks of floating houses that appeared on the great ocean, larger than any balsa wood raft, with white leaves that catch the wind. From these floating houses, he says, came strange men. He describes them in fragmented, bewildering detail. Men with hair growing on their faces like the wool of a llama. Men whose skin was pale like a plucked bird, and who wore shells of shiny metal that covered their bodies and heads, gleaming in the sun. They did not walk with the steady gait of a mountain man. They sat atop giant llamas, beasts that were taller, faster, and stronger than any animal he had ever seen, with thundering hooves that shook the earth. One of the listeners scoffs. "You have been chewing too much coca," he mutters, "or you saw spirits." But the northern runner shakes his head, his eyes wide. "No," he insists. "They had sticks, hollow sticks, and these sticks would breathe smoke and make a sound like thunder cracking right next to your ear. And where the thunder pointed, a man would fall down, bleeding with a new hole in his body." A hush falls over the group. This is beyond any known form of warfare. An atlet, spear thrower, or a sling is one thing. A stick that spits fire and thunder is another. It sounds like magic. Dark magic. You listen, a cold knot tightening in your stomach. The story is absurd. It defies all logic and experience. And yet, the terror in the voice of the runner is genuine. This is the first time you are hearing the whispers that have been trickling down from the northern coast for a few years now. Fragmented reports of Francisco Pizarro exploratory expeditions. To the Inca, these were not historical events. They were terrifying and inexplicable intrusions. You find yourself wondering how one reports this. How does a quip you see aim a seed? I not for a giant llama you sit on, or a thunder stick. Does he use a special colored string, a new kind of knot? Or is the information passed only through the supplemental verbal message, a frantic, whispered warning that risks being distorted with each retelling? Historians still debate how effectively the Quipu system, so brilliant at recording numbers and known quantities, could transmit information about completely alien concepts. Did the Sipa Inca in Cusco receive a clear, accurate report of men with horses and guns? Or did he receive a muddled story about pale-faced demons with magical sticks, a story so outlandish it might have been dismissed as a provincial superstition? The conversation breaks up. The northern runner goes to find a quiet corner to sleep, but you doubt he will find much rest. The other Chasquis shake their heads, muttering. It is a strange story from the chaotic, uncivilized lands beyond the firm control of the Empire. It is nothing to worry about. The Tawantinsuyu is the center of the world, eternal and unshakable. These strange men are a fleeting anomaly, a ghost story to tell on a cold night. You go back to your own mat, preparing for your next run. You try to push the story from your mind. It is not your concern. Your concern is the road, the message, the next tambal. And yet, the images linger. A floating house, a man with a face full of hair, a stick that breathes thunder, The landslide you survived was a known danger, a fury of the natural world. This feels different. This is an unknown danger, a whisper of a storm gathering far, far away, a storm that the great and powerful Inca Empire might not know how to weather. The strange tales from the north are soon overshadowed by a more immediate and familiar crisis. The Sapa Inca, Huan Capac, the great ruler who had consolidated the empire, is dead. He died not in battle but from a mysterious pestilence that swept through the northern provinces, a disease you now recognize from the runner description as something brought by the strange men. Smallpox. It moved faster than any Chasqui, a silent, invisible messenger of death. With the emperor death, the empire is thrown into turmoil. Huan Capac had not clearly named a single successor. Two of his sons, half-brothers from different mothers, rise to claim the throne. In Cusco, the traditional heart of the empire, Huascar is crowned Sapa Inca. But in the northern capital of Quito, his brother, Atahualpa, a brilliant and ambitious general who was his father's favorite, refuses to recognize Huascar authority. The unthinkable happens. The Tawantinsuyu, the four parts together, is torn into. Civil war erupts. Suddenly, the Chasqui system, your world, is thrown into a state of hyperdrive. The demand for information explodes. Both Huascar and Atahualpa need to know everything. Where are the enemy armies? Which governors have declared allegiance to which side? Are the storehouses secure? The roads, which once served a single, unified empire, are now contested arteries. Your work becomes more dangerous than ever before. The quipas you carry are not just administrative records. They are vital military secrets. Intercepting a message is no longer a crime against the state. It is a strategic victory for the opposing side. The shadowy threat of spies becomes a constant, terrifying reality. The friendly face at the next tambo might be an agent for the other brother. You learn to trust no one. The system begins to operate under an unprecedented level of strain. The demand for speed is absolute. The rest periods at the tamboes are cut short. You are not just tired but utterly exhausted. The high-energy food supplies start to dwindle as supply chains are disrupted by the conflict. You are running on fumes, your body and mind pushed to the breaking point. The network, once a model of smooth efficiency, is now frayed and overstressed. You might be carrying a message for Huascar generals one day, detailing a planned attack. But the next runner in the chain might be a secret supporter of Atahualpa. The message never arrives. Instead, a false message is sent in its place, leading Huascar army into a carefully laid ambush. The Chasqui system, the greatest asset of the empire, is being turned against itself, used as a weapon of deception and betrayal. The very nature of the messages changes. The quipas are no longer just about numbers of potatoes. They are about numbers of soldiers killed, numbers of spears and slings available, tallies of the dead. The verbal messages are no longer simple addendums. They are frantic, whispered passwords and strategic fights. This period of civil war is a point of considerable interest for historians. It raises a key question about whether the communication system itself contributed to the conflict. The ability to send messages so quickly might have actually accelerated the escalation. A minor skirmish could be reported, and a response ordered within days, turning a small incident into a major battle before cooler heads could prevail. The information superhighway of the Inca may have fanned the flames of the war, spreading the conflict faster and wider than would have been possible in a slower, less connected world. You see the cost of this war firsthand. You run past villages that have been burned, their fields untended. You see the faces of the people, etched with fear and uncertainty. The unity and order that the empire had imposed for a century is unraveling. The road is still there, the tamboes are still manned, but the spirit of the system is breaking. You are no longer a neuron in a single thinking brain. You are a conflicted nerve impulse in a body at war with itself. As you run, you pass another Chasqui heading in the opposite direction. You do not know who he runs for. He does not know who you run for. You just nod, a grim acknowledgement of your shared perilous profession, and continue on your separate ways, to messengers of a dying empire, racing towards an unknown future. The thunder sticks and giant llamas of the strange men are almost forgotten, a distant fairy tale. The real monster, you realize, is the one that comes from within. The civil war reaches its brutal climax. Atahualpa's seasoned generals outmaneuver Huascar forces. Cusco falls. Atahualpa victorious is now the undisputed Sapa Inca, but it is a victory over a fractured, bleeding empire. A fragile, tense peace settles over the land. The Chasqui system, now serving as single master again, begins to return to a semblance of normality. But the messages you carry are different. They are about consolidation of power, about rooting out the last pockets of resistance, about loyalty oaths from provincial governors. The empire is scarred, and the healing has barely begun. It is during this uneasy calm that the old whispers from the north return, louder and more urgent than ever. The strange men with the thunder sticks and the giant llamas are back, and this time, they are not just exploring the coast. They are climbing the mountains. They are marching inland. Atahualpa is in the northern city of Cajamarca, celebrating his victory, surrounded by tens of thousands of his best soldiers. He is curious about these strange visitors, but not fearful. How could he be? He is the son of the sun, the victorious leader of the mightiest empire the world has ever known. What threat could a handful of oddly dressed men, fewer than 200 of them, possibly pose? He agrees to meet with their leader, Francisco Pizarro. You are now part of the massive communication network that surrounds the new Sapa Inca. The messages flying back and forth along the QH of Pacnan are a flurry of activity. You carry reports from scouts. The strangers have entered the mountains. They have reached the city of Cajamarca. They are camped in the main square. Then comes the day of the meeting. Atahualpa enters the square of Cajamarca, carried on his golden litter, surrounded by thousands of his lightly armed attendants, a magnificent display of imperial power designed to awe the foreign visitors. The strangers are nowhere to be seen. The square seems empty, and then the trap is sprung. The thundersticks, the harquebuses, explode in a volley of smoking death. The giant llamas, the cavalry, charge out from the surrounding buildings, their steel armor glinting, their riders wielding sharp metal swords. The Inca warriors, brave but equipped only with clubs and slings, have never faced anything like this. They have no concept of a cavalry charge, no defense against firearms or steel blades. Panic erupts. It is a massacre. In the midst of the chaos, Pizarro men seize the ultimate prize, the Sapa Inca himself. Atahualpa, the living god, is taken hostage. The news is so catastrophic, so unthinkable, that at first, it seems impossible to convey. What quip you can record the capture of a god? The Chasqui who brings the first report is likely met with disbelief, perhaps even punishment for spreading such insane, treasonous lies. But more reports follow, confirming the impossible. The empire nervous system is thrown into a state of shock and paralysis. The brain has been kidnapped. You are given a quipu. The message is desperate, urgent. It is a command from one of Atahualpa's generals, trying to rally a force to counterattack, to rescue the emperor. This is your last, most important run. You fly across the stone paths, your feet pounding a frantic rhythm of disbelief and terror. The thin mountain air feels like a suffocating blanket. The world that had seemed so eternal, so ordered, has been turned upside tilted. As you run, you realize the terrible irony. Your speed, the incredible efficiency of the system you are a part of, is now meaningless. You can run faster than any horse over a long distance, yes, but you cannot outrun a bullet. You can carry a message 100 kilometers in a day, but that message is useless against the political chaos and technological shock that has just struck the heart of your world. The debate among historians continues to this day about how a tiny band of conquistadors toppled a mighty empire of millions. The reasons are complex. Disease had already weakened the empire, the Civil War had fractured its leadership, and the Spanish had a massive technological and tactical advantage. But the capture of Atahualpa was the single, decisive blow. It decapitated the state. The highly centralized, top-down power structure of the empire was its greatest strength, but in that moment, it became its greatest vulnerability. You arrive at the next tambo, your body screaming, your lungs on fire. You pass the quipu to the waiting runner. You have done your part. You have run your race. But as you watch him disappear down the path, you have a sinking feeling that it is already too late. You are running as fast as you can, but you are running on a road that is crumbling into dust beneath your feet. The Empire is not just broken, it is dying, and all your speed cannot outrun its fate. The years that follow are a blur of chaos and collapse. The Spanish, holding the Sapa Inca Atahualpa hostage, demand a ransom, a room filled once with gold and twice with silver. The call goes out across the Empire. The Qhapaqnan and the Chasqui system, once used to transport information and decrees, are now used to facilitate the Empire's own looting. You find yourself carrying quipas that are no longer military orders, but inventories of sacred objects, golden sun discs, and silver llamas, all destined for the melting pots of the conquest harvers. You run past temples stripped bare, their golden adornments gone. You run through towns where the old order is dissolving, replaced by the harsh, incomprehensible demands of the Spanish. The road, once a symbol of Inca power and unity, now feels like an escape route from a world that is ending. Atahualpa is executed anyway, even after the ransom is paid. The Spanish install a series of puppet temperors, but the true power is gone. The Inca fight back, of course. There are rebellions, fierce and bloody, led by new Inca leaders like Manco Inca. For a time, they even lay siege to Cusco, and you, as a Chasqui, continue to serve them, carrying messages for the resistance. Your runs now acts of defiance, rather than imperial duty. But it is a losing battle. The Spanish have allies among the tribes conquered by the Inca, who are only too happy to see their former masters fall. The diseases the Europeans brought with them continue to ravage the population, a silent, deadly fifth column. And the Spanish military machine, with its horses, steel, and firearms, is relentless. Slowly, inevitably, the Chasqui system withers and dies. What use is a relay of runners when a Spaniard on horseback can carry a written letter just as fast, and with less effort? The Spanish see the value of the road, the Qhapaqnan, and they continue to use it. But they use it for their own purposes, to move their armies, to transport silver from the mines, to solidify their own control. The tamboes that once sheltered you now house Spanish soldiers. The sacredness of the system is gone. It is just a tool in the hands of new masters. You are a man without a purpose now. The calling that defined your entire life has vanished. You are still young, your body still a marvel of endurance, but there are no more official messages to carry. The urgent need for your speed has been replaced by the slow, grinding reality of colonial rule. You find yourself walking the Great Road, not running. You walk past the ruins of relay stations, their roofs gone, their walls crumbling. You see sections of the road falling into disrepair, no longer maintained by the meticulous Inca state. The grass is growing over the stones. The drainage channels are clogged with debris. The great artery is hardening, silting up, its pulse growing faint. In your travels, you see the profound changes. You see churches being built on the foundations of Inca temples. You see villagers who once worked the land for the Sapa Inca, now forced to labor in the silver mines for a Spanish lord. You see children who will never know what it was like to see a Chasqui, a flash of imperial speed, sprint through their town. This period of transition is a source of much scholarly work. Archaeologists trace the decay of the road system, noting which sections were maintained by the Spanish and which were abandoned to nature. Historians study the Spanish chronicles to understand how the colonial administration tried, and often failed, to co-opt the old Inca systems of labor and tribute. It is a story of cultural collision, of a world being forcibly dismantled and reassembled into something new and unrecognizable. There is a deep sadness in this slow decay. It is not the dramatic, fiery end of a single battle, but the quiet, creeping oblivion of a way of life. You are a relic, a living ghost from a bygone era. Your skills, once among the most valued in the Empire, are now obsolete. You stand on a high pass, looking at the stone path snaking its way through the mountains, disappearing into the clouds. It is still a magnificent sight, a testament to the genius of your ancestors. The road outlasted the empire that built it. It is still here, a silent, stone witness to everything that was lost. The wind whistles past you, sounding like the faint, ghostly echo of a put-ut you call from a time long gone. The race is over. The great network has fallen silent, and the only messages that travel now are the ones carried in the memories of men like you. You are an old man now. The corded muscles in your legs have softened. The phenomenal power in your lungs has quieted. You live in a small village, high in a valley that feels like the embrace of a sleeping giant. Your days are spent not running, but sitting in the sun weaving coarse blankets from llama wool. Your gnarled fingers still surprisingly deft. The coiled spring of the Chasqui is gone, replaced by the slow, deliberate patience of age. Sometimes when the wind blows down from the high passes in just the right way, you can still feel it. A phantom echo in your muscles, a ghost run. You can feel the memory of the stone path under your sandals, the rhythmic slap, 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 the burning in your thighs as you climbed, the controlled fall of a descent. You can almost hear the ghostly call of a Puchutiyu, a sound that makes the hairs on your arms stand up even now. It is a part of you. This memory of motion, woven into your very being like the threads in the loom before you. Your grandchildren sit at your feet. They live in a different world, a world of Spanish priests and steel tools. They beg you for stories of the before times. You tell them of the great roads, of running so fast that you could deliver a fish from the sea to the Sun King in the mountains. They listen with wide eyes, but to them, it is a myth, a legend as grand and as distant as the stories of the gods creating the world. They see an old man. They cannot see the young boy who outran the wind. They cannot understand the feeling of being the living nerve of the empire, the absolute focus, the crushing responsibility. You see the villagers every day, leading their llamas down the mountain to the market. They walk on the same path you once ran, the Chasqui high road built for gods and runners, now used for carrying potatoes. And in a way, this is its own testament. The empire is gone, the Sapa Inca is a memory, the Chasquis are ghosts, but the road remains. It is so perfectly built, so deeply integrated into the landscape, that it continues to serve the people long after its original purpose has faded into legend. You hear the young men talk sometimes. They debate the past. It is a debate historians will have for centuries about whether the Chasquis were heroes. Were you symbols of the strength and unity of your people, paragons of discipline and duty? Or were you just tools, the fastest horses in the stable of the Sapa Inca, cogs in a vast, authoritarian machine that demanded absolute obedience and valued the message more than the man? You listen to their arguments, and you know the truth is, as always, somewhere in the middle. You were both. You felt the immense pride, the sacred duty, the feeling of being part of something vast and magnificent. And you also felt the crushing weight of that duty, the fear, the knowledge that you were, in the end, expendable. You held both the glory and the burden in your straining lungs with every breath you took. You look up at the great, snow-capped peaks that dominate the skyline, the Apures, the mountain spirits you pray to on every run. They were there long before the Inca, and they are here long after. They are the only witnesses who saw it all. They saw the roads being built. They saw you run, they saw the empire fall. And they see you now, a quiet old man waiting for his final rest. Your race is finally run. Your track is at an end. There are no more relay stations ahead, no more messages to pass. It is time to deliver your last message, the memory of yourself, into the great silence of the mountains. And so the story of the runner comes to a quiet close. His memory dissolves into the vast, silent landscape of the Andes, becoming one with the wind that whispers through the high passes and the ancient stones that still pave the great road. Just as his story fades, allow the edges of your own day to soften and dissolve as well. Feel the frantic pace of your own thoughts begin to slow, like a runner finally reaching the sanctuary of the Tammo. There are no more messages to carry, no more tasks to complete. There is only the gentle weight of your own breathing, rising and falling in a slow, steady rhythm. Imagine the deep, dreamless quiet of the high mountains at night. The air is so clear you could almost touch the stars, those silent, distant companions that guided the runner in the dark. Let that profound stillness settle over you, a blanket of peace. The wind you hear from your fan is no longer a mountain gale, but a soft lullaby, a sound to carry you deeper into rest. Every breath you take is a step further away from the noise of the day, and a step closer to the quiet center of your own sleep. Let go of the trail. The race is over. Let the deep and profound rest you deserve claim you now.